I am 12 years old when a deafening roar shatters the windows of our house as a bomb blasts through the wall, blowing up the piano and just luckily missing my father, who only seconds before had left the room. My throat burns. All I can smell is burnt metal and dust. I look down at my hands and they're trembling. My stomach is in knots and sweat is pouring down the back of my neck. And then suddenly, the voice of an angel. Simone, breathe in. Breathe out. My mother's voice. She's crouching under the table, looking me in the eye, and the effect is immediate. And then her voice again. Simone, now help your brother. Beside me, my brother Tim is shaking. I put one hand on his shoulder, I look him in the eye, and I guide him to breathe the way Mum showed me. In a few seconds, his face softens, his shoulders relax, and the steady rise and fall of his chest tells me that his panic is subsiding. And miraculously, I realize so is mine. Looking back, I know my mother's calm helped me to refocus and breathe, but it wasn't until I reached out to help my brother that my own stress fell away. At the age of 12, I saw firsthand how a single act of kindness has the power to change everything. And since then, I've learned that empathy isn't just a feeling, it's an action. It's an intention. Now, you may not have had a bomb go off in the middle of your house, but you've likely had times in your life where your stress has felt completely overwhelming. And in those moments, you may not realize it, but you've got 3 choices. The first choice, do nothing. Hide under the covers, shut the world out, and pretend it's not happening. Sometimes that's all we've got. Choice 2, reach out with an act of kindness. And choice 3, allow someone to reach out to you and help you in your moment of need. So today, I'm inviting you to embrace the last 2 choices. Extend an act of kindness or receive an act of kindness. Take a moment to consider which one feels easier. Choose one or choose both. This is empathy in action, whether it's yours or someone else's. Now let's explore how reaching out to others can relieve stress by looking at the science. In the 1980s, as my own bomb blast experience was unfolding, lawyer and altruism activist Alan Lux introduced the phrase, the helper's high. He wrote a book called The Healing Power of Doing Good. He studied 3,000 people, and the result, empathy in action, also known as acts of kindness, triggers neurochemical changes by releasing endorphins and oxytocin. We know oxytocin as the love hormone. It's released when we connect with each other, and it gives us that warm and fuzzy feeling. But it's also a stress hormone released by the body to motivate us to reach out to one another in times of stress. It invites us to create emotional bonds and form relationships. Oxytocin literally primes our brains to be more empathetic. And why did we evolve this way? Well, caring for one another gives us a greater chance of survival. And the more we reach out in times of stress, the more oxytocin our bodies produce. And when we focus on someone else's needs, we have less bandwidth to worry about our own problems. So what does empathy in action look like? Well, it doesn't require hours of volunteering or elaborate gestures, because it's not the act itself that transforms stress, it's the feeling, it's the intention behind the act. Kindness spreads because of the feeling it conveys. You matter. I see you. And kindness is at its most effective when it comes from the heart. Kindness is contagious, not because of what we do, but because of the feeling that goes into it. And the more we reach out, the more oxytocin our body produces. In fact, The same oxytocin is released whether we donate $1 million or we simply hold the door for someone. And that's how kindness spreads, one intention at a time. So, what are some examples of what reaching out looks like and how it can relieve stress? Well, there's a country in the world that has a lot to teach us about acts of kindness. The name of the country starts with a J and it ends with an N, and I can bet you know what it is. Japan. Thank you. In Japan, acts of kindness aren't random, they're the norm, and they often come with a touch of humor, making them both memorable and uplifting. So, I'd like to share a personal story of how my own stress has transformed recently. I was in Japan on a business trip in Tokyo, and I was having a pretty rough time. I was heartbroken. I just lost a friend. I had a health problem and I had immense pressure in my job. And I knew that I had a choice in that moment to ring home and get some support or to reach out there and then and with an act of kindness. So I chose the latter and I dug inside my handbag and I had post-it notes, I had some sticky tape. I pulled out 200 yen, which is $2 or enough to buy a drink. And on the post-it note, I wrote, "Please take," in Japanese. And then I stuck this note on a nearby vending machine, of which there are many in Japan. And then I hid behind a car and waited to see what happened. I'd now like to share with you a short video of what transpired. So the Japanese are gracious receivers and they express deep gratitude. And for me in that moment, I was lifted out of my despair and I felt renewed. I felt lighter. And I definitely felt like my stress had melted away. In Japanese, there's a beautiful expression, and it goes like this: Nasake wa hito no tame narazu. Nasake wa hito no tame narazu. And this means that kindness isn't just for others, it finds its way back to you too. Why is this? It's because empathy is infectious. And when we show kindness, it often inspires others to pay it forward. So I'd like to share one final story of how kindness found its way back to me. I was flying home from Tokyo to Melbourne and I was sitting in the airport lounge and I took my rings off because my fingers swell. I got home to Melbourne the next morning and I realized that my grandmother's diamond engagement ring was missing. I panicked. I called the hotel in Tokyo to confirm that it wasn't there because I'd actually forgotten where I'd taken them off. Then I contacted the airport. I described the ring, I sent a photo, and to my immense relief, someone in the airport lounge had picked it up and handed it in to the lost and found. I was reunited with my ring a few weeks later, and I took a small gift to say thank you. The airport staff flat out refused to accept my gift, saying, no, it's not appropriate to accept a gift for acting with honesty. This kind of kindness isn't an exception in Japan, it's the norm. But we don't have to go to Japan to have this experience. We can receive help and support from a stranger or a loved one. Sometimes it's harder to accept help from our loved ones. And it reminds us of how we're all connected and how a simple gesture or act creates a ripple effect, brightening the day for both giver and receiver. So we can't always dodge life's explosions, but we can learn how to transform our stress by practicing empathy in action. So my invitation to you today is this: the next time you feel stressed, do something unexpected for someone. A small gesture, a kind word, or a smile, and observe how it makes you feel. Or allow someone to reach out to you in your moment of need. When we extend kindness, we become the light for others. And when we receive kindness, we allow others to be the light for us. Kindness is contagious, and empathy in action is the wave of change our world desperately needs. Thank you.